Hello, everyone. That
Hi.
took forever to start. Well, I am very excited to be here, and Miss Jocelyn is here with me. I just required someone to kind of hold my hand. I haven't been live. I haven't been live, just full stop. No, I'm just kidding. But I haven't been live for a really, really long time. I actually have somewhat taken a bit of a external hiatus, and I've been way more internal, as I say to myself, or I have said to people that I've been in my little cave licking my wounds because I am far more canine, I'll say, than I am person. So thank you, Miss Jocelyn, for coming on here with me, just so that I had someone to converse with and be appropriate with.
Very good.
Because this conversation is so funny. I was talking to Jocelyn. I was like, I started, you know, promoting, which is maybe appropriate or not, you know, on social media about this call. And I really truly haven't done I did a call on grief, was incredibly inappropriate. And then I followed it up with this call, which has literally, this has been speaking to me for probably at least a year, if not longer, kind of my whole life. Like, I am the epitome of someone who um, is appropriately inappropriate, like all the time. Like, this is my appropriate shirt. This is my attempt to be appropriate. And it's something I've like kind of lived with my whole life. And I think so many people have. And I was pinging Jocelyn the other day going, I don't know, is it me or is this call just kind of like going out into the ethers and people are like, I don't know. I don't want to look over there. Like, I don't want, because it's like, do we ever really want to acknowledge how much we allow the idea of being appropriate to control our lives? Like, who we talk to, who we don't talk to, what we do, what we don't do, you know, what we're willing to like explore or not explore. Like, there's so much. And I really like, for me personally, and I want to hear Jocelyn your experience, but like as a child, it was one of the major themes growing up for me, was like constantly being in a space of what's appropriate here. How am I supposed to function? Who am I supposed to talk to? What am I supposed to say or not say? Because one of the things that is hallmark for me is that I will often say the one thing that nobody in the room wants to be said. And it will often just blurt out. Or I will, like as a kid, I emoted the one thing that everybody was trying to pretend wasn't happening. If people were upset in a room, I would just be a mess and just, like be completely hysterical and have no real sense of why I was hysterical, but just hysterical. Like, I can't remember a holiday or family function that I didn't go home in like full on like hysterics. And, looking back at that, that wasn't me. That was my awareness of the environment that I was in. And I am just one of those people that the more I'm being me, which for me personally is the more I am inappropriate in the eyes of the world. So,
Everyone is.
and so to me, this call is like, yes, I will have even more of that because it is a constant thing. It's not something like I'm almost in my 50s, and I still have moments where things come up where I'm like, ooh, should I go there? That's going to be really inappropriate if I do that or say that or put that thing out there or allow myself to be as free as that or say the things that may be true for me but not for anyone else. I mean, there's so, wear that dress, do my hair that certain way, look a certain way, wear freaking red lipstick. I'm being very inappropriate with my red lipstick right now. I mean, there were freaking decades that was really inappropriate. This meant you were a whore, And I remember I really wanted to wear makeup growing up, like very early. Like I think I started wearing makeup like, I don't know, in 3rd or 4th grade, and it was like, come on, it was back in the '80s. So the thing I wore was the blue mascara. Do you remember the blue mascara?
I loved it so much.
And I
I still love it.
I know, I was gonna say I would rock a blue mascara like right now to this day.
I would
Uh,
choose purple, but
exactly. See, we all have our, but it's like I remember my mom's dad being very upset that my mom was allowing me to wear makeup. And I remember him saying like things to me, but one of the things that I wanted to talk about on this is like for me the biggest trap my whole life about whether or not to choose what is me or works for me and not is not because of what how it would reflect on me, but because of how it would reflect on my other people. And the main person was always my mom. Like I never wanted to cause my mom more, you know, stuff. And yet, hands down, my poor mom with her family and like the things that I chose, like all the way through, like I was just constantly the person that was um doing inappropriate things. And then my mom would have to try to come up with and she just got really good at not excusing me and not necessarily like approving of me, but just being like, she is what she is. So
yeah.
what has been like what like for you, like Jocelyn, like what's when you look at the topic of this call, like what does it bring up for you?
Well, I hadn't even started looking at my childhood, to be honest, which is a whole different world over
A
here.
whole different bag.
But like lately, what I've been looking at is I've had these moments where it's almost like I'm coming up against this glass box of like this society, like what's appropriate. And recently I bought some new clothes that my body loves. Like it's the
Mhm.
first time that I've really allowed myself to actually get things that I'm like every time I see them or I put them on or I touch them, I'm like, oh my God, I love you so much. And I've just noticed where looking nice is actually almost inappropriate.
Well,
Like
especially now. Like,
I'm like, oh, what do you mean by that, Cara?
well, I just think we all came out of the COVID wonk
Yeah,
just weird as
pajamas, yoga pants, or my work clothes, which at the time was scrubs. So all the pajamas, all the different types of pajamas.
well, and I mean, you have that huge like and I mean, I got a degree in community health education, so I know how that is to like be in that world of health, like the medical community health, of
Yeah.
like you have to be, you know, you have
Proper.
to prop and you have to like wear like you're either in scrubs or you're wearing very understated things. Like I just remember going to all my different internships that I had to go to. And I mean, looking back at it now, like community health education was very preventative medicine based. So like I interned to places like the American Cancer Society and the Health District and all these
Yeah.
and I would go into those places and I would just be like, dear Lord, kill me. What is this? What is happening right now? Who are these people? Why would they choose to do this for their whole lives? They're miserable. They're miserable. Some of the most unhealthy people on the planet. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes. Yeah.
and so again, it's like, and yet that was the appropriate choice. The appropriate thing to do was to go to college, to pick a college degree, and to like pretend like that was going to friggin' satisfy me for my whole life. That didn't last very long for me.
Can I
I've
just
always
say
moved
that
to the inappropriate.
I was like, this conversation is inappropriate. And I love that you say that like you've been willing to like kind of push that inappropriate button where like you're the one that actually like says it knowingly or unknowingly, like just being you is that like kind of pusher through the thing. And it's where I actually shut down. It's where I'm like, ooh, I can tell that this is gonna like bother like all this people that I'm aware of. And I like kind of like I'm the like so we go opposite ways. Yeah. And I'm like
Well,
really
and that, thank you so much for that, because that is really truly what I'm inviting people to in this call.
Yeah,
Because what I will say is I am the person who will always push the button,
you're a
and
leader.
it's not easy.
Yeah,
It is unfucking comfortable because you know when you're doing it. And
yep.
you know it's like you, and there's this moment of like, "Oh god, okay. Oh, I did it. I did it." And for a really long time, I used to like choose it, and then I would like, "Oh my god," and I would like collapse in, and I would go into doubt, and I would go into freak out, and what I realized with all of that was that that's almost worse than not choosing it. I mean, there's
Yeah,
2 different, there's different ways, but it's like if you know you could, because the sense when you get through the uncomfortableness of the choice, the button you just pushed, there is this doorway into having a more like dynamic and palpable sense of like what's true for you, like what actually works for you and what doesn't work for you. But there's this like, interim place where you have to just be with all of the shit that comes up for people or all the shit that comes up for you. Cause sometimes, you know, it isn't like, it's not like I'm constantly wanting to put people at unease and disappoint people or upset people. I don't really like, I think there's a fallacy for those of us that are willing to push that boundary that we do enjoy it. Like there is a sense of like, I enjoy having more access to who I am and not filtering or limiting myself. And yet there is always, it always shows up this moment of like, shit,
yeah,
what did I just create? And that right there, like learning how to actually ask that question, like one of the things that we talk a lot about is that like every choice that you choose creates something, And so, and then being able to ask a question of like, okay, cool. Like, what if there isn't any right or wrong? Like, even with like what you choose, like where you're like, you're aware of what it's going to create. And so you choose to like be more appropriate in that moment, which has one effect. It's not wrong. What I would love for people to have is the awareness of that boundary that you get to push, and like what is it going to create, and what would you like to choose, like what if it could actually start to be fun for you
yeah,
to choose those things that actually, because when you put people into a space where they're uncomfortable, you're actually putting them in question. And I think the one of the ways that we can change the planet, which I personally feel like it needs quite a change, is by getting people to question
yeah,
like what they believe is true and what they believe about themselves, or what they believe about anything. It's like putting people in question, which is a major disruption to a lot of people, can be highly inappropriate. Is one of like my favorite things to do, because I know that either way something different will show up.
yeah. And I love that so much. And I just wanna, like, kinda hop back just for a second, like, kinda what you were saying about being aware of making people uncomfortable or putting them into question, and so I know one of your favorite things to do is to empower highly aware people,
Yeah.
and so I just wanna, like, call out that even when I was doing my best to, like, stay away from that glass edge, and I was, like, kind of instead of letting myself out into the world, I didn't notice at the time, but I kept trying to be more appropriate and kept
Yeah.
shrinking,
Yeah.
and I was still making people uncomfortable. I was still like, it doesn't matter whether I was pushing the bounds of what I know is possible, however small I was making myself, I'm still gonna have people judging me. I'm still gonna be making people uncomfortable. I'm still gonna be people that aren't willing to even have a sliver of whatever, I'm gonna make them uncomfortable, and so I literally was like, how small can I be? Like, I can't go any smaller than I am right now, so, like, obviously, this is not working. I mean, this was a while ago, but I can still feel myself, like, I know what that choice created. What it
Yeah.
created for me and my body was not ease, joy, happiness, anything that I'm interested in. It was trying to please everyone and everything that isn't possible. So I just wanted to show that. Yeah.
Totally, and I think that's such a great point, and it's like as you move through this too, it's like where you can actually expand to changes and shifts. So it's like, like compared to what you would have chosen 5 years ago, you're like light years different. But you still, like I said, there's always still that moment of like,
Mhm.
okay, like, am I actually gonna choose this? Am I actually going to be that inappropriate energy? And how much more fun can you have with it? How much more ease can you have with it? And the thing that I love that you brought up is that I do like, I mean, I think one of my specialties and one of the things I am here to actually do on this planet is to release all the freaks into the world. Like not just release them, but release them with a level of like, fuck it, and I'm brilliant, And it's like we all can choose more than that. I mean, there's so many of us that are so different. And the thing about that, like you said, the box and like how small can I actually get? So many of us are so dysfunctional by the time we get into like early or into our, I mean, whatever. I was probably dysfunctional at 3, but like into our early 20s, it's like we've done so much contracting and so much like negotiating and so much like all the things that we do. Like the more you contract, the more you solidify, the more fucking intense everything gets. And that's something that no one tells you when you're very, very aware and you're very, very sensitive and you're neurodivergent and you're wired differently. It's like the more you collapse in on yourself, the more you are at the effect of every fucking thing. And so you literally are doing the one thing that is going to make you more fucking crazy as you
Like
go.
crying from acknowledging that, yeah.
And I mean, I was nuts when I first found the access bars. I was crazy. Like I was having like full on panic attacks. I was like I was not in a good way. And like, just getting my bars run started to shift and change a lot of that because it allowed me to actually like stop contracting to some degree.
Yeah.
Like even in the most mildest way to stop contracting is such a relief when you are that aware. So thank you for bringing that up because I think it's such a great point that you are doing more like harm than you even realize, not just to you like to your life, but to your body. Like most of us that have been doing this, like I got to be appropriate, so I have to like shrink down and like our bodies have been screaming at us for years. So even though you may not realize this conversation actually applies to so many elements in your life,
It's a huge topic.
it's a huge freaking topic. And I'm so excited to actually have 3 calls to facilitate this, to like really bring people into like looking at like where are you actually doing this, and if you chose something different, if you were just willing to be a little bit inappropriate, like what could actually change for your life and living. And that is really what this call is. So if you've seen you've seen the promos for it and you've just been like, it's not for me, like actually look at, is it for you? Because like Jocelyn said, one of the things like I don't get, and like when I choose to do like a call or a class, it is literally like I'll be minding my own business in my bathtub, thinking I'm relaxing, and it'll just like boom, like this is a call that needs to be in the world. And so it's not even really something that like I cognitively go, I'm going to do this call and it's going to be on this topic and blah, blah, blah. I didn't even know really where we were going to go on this little conversation we had. Although I did tell Jocelyn we can't go for too long because I'll just facilitate the call in my little free live that I did. My
Oh,
little appropriate free live. It's so funny because it's like, what do I do? Like, what do I do to marketing is such a strange beast for me. It's so weird. It's so strange. It's like I desire to, like you said, empower people and like give people this energy of like you can be the effector in the world. You do not have to be at the effect of. It's one of my favorite things to put out there. And yet, like, you know, putting myself out there to say, hey, come and play is a is always a very interesting energy. So thank you again, Miss Jocelyn, for being
Thank
on.
you. And thank
And
you everyone for coming on the wave of
yeah,
this
if
live with
you're
us.
live or if you're seeing this after the fact, it doesn't matter. We're all aware when we're aware. That's a very great statement.
Come play with us.
It
Um,
starts next week.
yeah,
We'll put the information in down below wherever you're seeing this. And again, if this speaks to you, if it would contribute to you to be able to choose the more inappropriate choice here and there, sprinkle it in a bit in your life.
try it out.
Exactly. Thank you all. Mwah.
Bye.